Oh yes, yeah. Come up here and show everybody how big you are. Oh my gosh, you're so big. You're so big. Holy crap. He's gotten huge, boys and girls. So the bill to remove suppressors from the NFA registry has been submitted in Congress. You like cans, don't you? We were out shooting the other day, and you really liked a can. Yeah, that was much better than the big boomies, So Finn approves of this bill right out the gate. And do you need any stronger endorsement than that? We're going to talk about this after we hear a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by Excess Sights. They are my go-to source for tritium night sights. They are the sight company that I choose to put on all of my defensive guns. So they are the company that I have chosen to be looking at should I be in probably the worst situation in my life. So check them out, and I thank them for being a longtime supporter of my mission here at the VSO Gun Channel. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that they stand with me in saying goodbye and good riddance to Stephen Dettelbach, soon to be the former director of the ATF. Okay, so for those of you who aren't super well versed in suppressors, maybe you never dabbled in them or anything like that, in order to obtain a suppressor or any other NFA or GCA regulated property, like a short barrel rifle, short barrel shotgun, machine gun, et cetera, you have to undergo a draconian, unconstitutional, lengthy process. And that process is exceptionally outdated. And let me put it in perspective for you. So think back to the 1990s. That is when we got the NICS system that we currently use for background checks on firearms. You go into the gun shop, you purchase a self-defense weapon, they run your background check. It's an automated computer system, or they can call it in, right? That system hails from the early 1990s. How old is something from the early 1990s? It's 30 years old. And to put that in perspective, if we put it in the perspective of computer stuff, for instance, if I took a 2025 program and loaded it on a 1990-ish machine, it would probably die. Okay. If you think about the National Firearms Act, which is what we're talking about, that hails from 1934. It is literally antiquated, as in the technical use of the term. It needs to be thrown out. It makes no sense with the current way that we do everything else that a tube full of a couple chunks of metal should be regulated in this way. So what this looks like is you have to submit 2 copies of your fingerprints on only the approved card. Ask how I know, only on their approved card. 2 copies of an ATF Form 4 that is sort of similar to the 4473, has a few other things, a headshot, and a $200 unconstitutional tax on top of the already unconstitutional taxes that you have to pay pertaining to excise tax and things like that. Although suppressors don't technically have excise tax, handgun, like rifles would, the short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns would. So that is the process. And up until the opening of e-forms, like last year for general use, when it came to Form 4 submissions, these were taking 11 months, 9 months. The longest that I've ever seen documented was 2 years. Absolutely unacceptable. So the bill to eliminate this process as it pertains to suppressors is called the SHUSH Act. Let me make sure I get the language right. HR 850, Silencers Help Us Save Hearing Act. And that's exactly what they are. Contrary to what Hollywood has done with the suppressor, suppressors are not silent. A rifle suppressor on average will do about 133 to 136 dB if it's a good one. If it's a crappy flow-through suppressor, higher than that. That is still jet engine loud, okay? That is seriously loud, still damaging to your hearing, anything over 140 for more than one exposure a day, right? So what that means is that the suppressor knocks it down. So if you had to fire your weapon 1 time or 2 times, you're probably okay without cumulative hearing loss. But if you're going to go out there and rip through a bunch of magazines of like AR-15 suppressed, well, then that is going to be damaging to your hearing, right? You're still going to have to wear hearing protection, but it's for that incidental use and also decreasing the noise pollution in the surrounding community. In fact, there are places around the world where firearms are legal and suppressors are required as a measure of good faith to the community. You know, be a good neighbor type thing. Dog scratched me pretty good. I've postponed doing this video for a couple days because I was waiting to get the actual text of the bill, but we still don't have the actual text of the bill. But we have seen this bill in the last Congress submitted by the same person. And basically, to walk you through what it does is it doesn't just take suppressors off of the NFA registry. It no longer treats them as firearms. They are regular accessories. So like a stock, like a handguard, like a flash suppressor, whatever it is, a magazine, any other component that isn't a serialized part. And that's the way that it ought to be because it is an accessory. Two more things, guys. The first, we've seen this bill before, as I mentioned, and it had support previously, but then it kind of died off because we had razor-thin margins on it. Right now, we've got a pretty good shot of getting this passed, provided that you guys help out. I am but one man, and I can only cause so much of a ruckus by having you guys comment down below, having you share it on X and, you know, all that sort of stuff. I can only do so much, but you guys got a call, right? And I'll have the number listed on screen that you guys can find. Ask for your senators, ask for your House of Representatives, tell them to support the SHUSH Act. You want this thing passed, and you should do it more than once. If you call them every week and clog up their phones, they'll get the message. The second thing that I would really like to address is kind of meter expectations here a little bit, because I see a lot of things written online about how I'm just going to wait until they're deregulated because they'll be so much cheaper. No, they'll be cheaper in that you won't have to pay the $200 tax after it's passed. But very likely, the cost of that device itself will, for the first several years, actually increase. So it wouldn't even surprise me if, like, right out the gate, the cost of them just doesn't go up 10 or 20% just because they're anticipating the rush on them. Because what's going to happen is people that had never thought that it was possible to get one before, and locales that don't have their laws written the right way, as in reliance on the NFA, for instance, the right way. I said that the wrong way. If some states have their firearms and suppressor laws written in such a way that it basically says whatever the NFA says, basically. Well, that comes off. Well, now those things are suddenly legal, and now people are just going to go out and rush by them, right? Instantaneously, there will be none to be had. And then the raw material costs to rush to get to meet demand and all that sort of stuff, you're going to have a serious supply problem for the first couple years. That will be supplemented by a whole bunch of new companies coming into the space. But I will also tell you that a lot of new companies have already rushed into the space, and it doesn't seem to really have helped much. In fact, I would say that right now, because the Form 4 is coming back so quickly with e-forms, that as someone who dabbles in that sort of thing as part of their business, I literally can't buy anything from my distributor right now. I literally cannot buy it. Everything is unobtainium. So I have seen those prices go up over the course of the last year slightly. If that situation perpetuates itself, that's where you get runaway prices. And we could see over the course of 3 to 5 years, that cost go up 10 to 20%. From whatever it is when the bill is axed, or when the bill is passed and signed into law type thing. So this whole, like, oh, they're going to be everywhere and they're going to be so cheap. In 20 years, yes. In 15 years, yes. Maybe in 10 years, yes. The next several years, pass it tomorrow, exorbitantly expensive. So this whole like, hey, you know, let's not, you know, spend it, let's do it now, depends on the device. That may be more expensive than the $200 tax stamp. I don't know. It depends what device you can spend thousands of dollars on a suppressor if you want. I think that you're an idiot if you do. What I'm saying is that there might be a cost benefit analysis that you do there depending on when you think this is all going to go down, right? It may be better for you, even though I don't agree with it, to pay the $200 tax from a financial standpoint, depending on which device that you're purchasing and what the material is. And, you know, if you're buying like an aluminum 22 can, then, you know, those ones probably dirt cheap. All right. You might see them creep up a little bit, but basically, I got two 22 cans coming in the next month or so. And they've pretty much defeated the pricing structure by doing volume on those devices. 22 cans are pretty much as cheap as they're ever going to get. Right. And if you use that as a model, it's a materials thing. If you're going to make it out of Inconel, it's got to be more expensive, right? If you're going to make it out of titanium, it's got to be more expensive. If you're going to make it out of aluminum, yeah, it can be cheap, right? But it's probably, it can't handle a lot of things if you do it that way. So it's all a Kamalagram where the different things come around and make the circles and they all overlap, right? I know what the term is. It's a Venn diagram. I know what it is, but I wanted to try to make it funny. Anyway, that's what I'm saying. Just meter your expectations. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. Thanks for tuning in to the VSO Gun Channel. And if you see anything cool out there, send it my way. Later on, guys.